Why, hello, my loves, and welcome back to Spook Manor. Are you here for a terrifying campfire tale? Well, I have quite the encounter for you. Would you care to join me as we follow three young men on an innocent road trip gone terribly wrong? Then let's begin. It's a warm summer's day in Cumberland, Rhode Island, where John finds himself driving his younger brother and their cousin down a winding wooded road. They had been planning this trip for over a year now, and with John's brother Kevin going off to college in the fall, they feared it would be their last chance to relive their childhood memories at Camp Ker-Anna. It was a journey the boys made with their father every year in childhood, until suddenly he passed away from a stroke when John was 14. Now 21, and with their lives scattering in different directions, they scooped up their cousin Brandon for a weekend they would never forget. They pulled into the campground around 6:30 and stood at the quaint little country-style front desk to check in. The receptionist is an older man with a dirty red baseball cap and polo shirt featuring the business logo on his chest. Staring at the screen, he ruffles his mustache while he fumbles with the computer. John had requested the most reclusive site they had available. Being the wild one of the group, he planned to get rowdy, to indulge in excessive drinking of spirited beverages, and hoped to avoid other campers. Finally, the old man spoke up. He had found a site similar to the one they were looking for, located in the campground at the far end, next to the section of property that had long since been closed off. Excitedly, John snatched it up like no one was watching, and they headed for the door. As they were stepping out, the old man called to them. "Don't you boys make any noise, or Fingernail Freddie will get ya." Concerned, Brandon asked, "Who's Fingernail Freddie?" The brothers scoffed and told him it was just a stupid urban legend. Nothing was going to ruin this weekend. Not this old man, and especially not some silly myth. The first night was perfect. The temperature was ideal, and the smell of nature and campfire smoke filled their senses with childhood memories. They reminisced and joked about past misadventures as they watched the stars sparkle over the smooth and glassy lake. The next day seemed to pass quickly, being spent mostly fishing on the shores and short, casual hikes around the grounds. Though after night had fallen, the boys broke out the booze, and as always, this led to roughhousing, hollering, and excessively loud music. Late into the night, Brendan had stepped away from the campsite to answer the call of nature. He stumbled through the darkness and heavy woodland, feeling as though the branches were grabbing at him as he went along in his inebriated state. Finally, he found a nice spot a good ways away and let out a huge, overly dramatic sigh of relief. It was one of those moments where being excessively intoxicated makes you feel like time has slowed to a crawl. Brandon's legs were getting tired, and he wobbled slightly where he stood. He began to sing a drunken song loudly in hopes of making the time pass quicker. Suddenly, he felt something sharp slash across his back. It felt like animal claws cutting through him. Whatever is attacking him grabbed him by the back of the collar and threw him to the ground. Quickly, he looked up to find a man standing before him. He was hardly visible in the darkness, but from what little campfire light that shone through the foliage, he could see the man was scarred from head to toe. He stood in tattered clothing, and with what appeared to be long, sharp objects on his fingers. Brandon began to scream at the horrific sight, covering his head and burying his face in the damp soil beneath him. The monstrous man continued to attack him with deep gashes tearing at his sides, arms, and back. He tried to fight against the crazed man, but his position rendered him useless. He continued to scream until he could hear John and Kevin calling to him. With all of the commotion, the assailant took off before the brothers arrived. They reached Brandon's side and carried him back to the campsite. Quickly, the police were called, and a search for the deranged man ensued. They all sat around in wait for the attacker to be found, and the old man who checked them in stood watching as the medical personnel tended to Brandon's wounds. "Yep, that's old Fingernail Freddie that got you," the old man stated, and the medic scowled at him. "Such nonsense," the female EMT hissed. Upon Brandon again inquiring as to who Fingernail Freddie was, the old man replied, "Legend has it that long ago, a nice man and his family lived in a farmhouse not far from Camp Ker-Anna. He was being teased and taunted by some of the local boys in the area. They made it a habit of vandalizing his home and property. Well, one day, they took it too far and burned down Freddie's house, killing his wife and children inside. Some say he managed to escape the fire, while others say he ran into the flames to save his family and failed. But either way, he shunned himself to the woods, perhaps out of fear or hatred, living a life in solitary without grooming or self-care. Rumor has it that his fingernails have grown extremely long. Apparently, there are no fingernail clippers out in the wilderness. And he uses them as weapons against campers who make too much noise. The old man paused for a minute before adding, "Freddie is a grouchy old coot. He's been terrorizing rowdy campers for decades, and no one has ever been able to find or stop him. People even claim that he might be a ghost, considering that he's been elusive for so long." It was then that John stood up, filled with rage and anger. "I'm going to find that SOB if it kills me," he stated while heading towards the door. "I wouldn't do that," the old man called out. "Many have gone searching for him and never returned. They say if you find his former property, he will kill you. I don't know about you, but I'm not chasing down no cursed man or a ghost. Oh no, not after all the stories I've heard over the years. No way, not me." And with that, silence fell over the group. They decided to cut their trip short due to Brandon's condition. Though they will always share and celebrate their fond memories of childhood in this beautiful landscape, the boys will never speak of the horrific events which took place that night, nor will they ever return to the quaint and serene woodland of Camp Ker-Anna. Though these men have chosen to forget, people of the surrounding area never will. This haunting urban legend dates back to the mid-20th century and is rumored to be the inspiration for the infamous movie Nightmare on Elm Street. As sightings and strange encounters continue to this day, Rhode Island residents will carry on whispering the terrifying tale of old Fingernail Freddie. So tell me, my loves, have you been to Camp Ker-Anna in Rhode Island? Have you encountered old Fingernail Freddie? Please comment down below and like and subscribe for more fictional stories that are often of actual urban legends and sometimes have historical reference. See you next week and have a good night.